I mean, I don't know exactly like what you're going to be comfortable talking about, but everybody keeps saying that you were the trigger man. Is that accurate?
Next question.
Can't talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Why did he end up getting shot anyway? Like, why? Especially
I don't feel like the drugs was part of the situation. I just feel like, I don't know, we was just kids being kids from the hood. Too much movement. That's all, too much movement.
Pop Smoke's killer is reportedly at the center of a new street incident after being caught lacking by New York goons. And not just any killer. We're talking about the same individual who avoided a life sentence because he was too young at the time of the crime. For months, he had been moving recklessly, trolling Pop Smoke online, making disrespectful comments, and even going on podcasts, speaking openly about the case like nothing could ever happen to him. But according to street sources, that confidence didn't last long because once word spread, the streets responded. And if that wasn't already wild enough, what later happened to the brother of the other shooter took things to another level, found on a beach inside a barrel. This whole situation feels unreal, but it's being talked about heavily right now. Let's break it down. So, look, for those who don't know the full story, let me bring y'all up to speed, real quick. February 19th, 2020. That's the day the music world lost Pop Smoke. One of the most promising young talents to come out of Brooklyn in years. Shorty was only 20 years old when he got murdered.
Smoke was known by some of the biggest names in the business, like Nicki Minaj and 50 Cent. His murder has stunned fans everywhere.
Yeah, everybody's talking about it. Police say suspects broke into his home and shot him.
Murdered during a home invasion in the Hollywood Hills. The whole situation was tragic. Man, Pop was supposed to be the next big thing. And just like that, he was gone. Now, 5 people got arrested in connection to his murder. Most of them were teenagers, literal kids who decided to go on music what they thought was going to be a simple lick. But one of these dudes, the one who everybody been saying, was the trigger man. He was only 15 at the time. That meant when he eventually admitted to the killing in juvenile court, he couldn't get hit with life. Instead, he got sent to a juvenile facility music until he turned 25. That's it. No life sentence, no real consequences that match the severity of what he did. Fast forward to him getting out, and this is where the story gets absolutely wild. This kid really thought he could just walk back into society and move however he wanted. He thought, because he did his little juvenile bid, that everything was cool. But New York had other plans for him. Fam, trust me on that. And before we get into what happened to the killer, let me remind y'all why Pop Smoke's death hit so different. This wasn't just another rapper getting killed. Pop Smoke was literally changing the sound of New York hip-hop. He brought Brooklyn drill to the mainstream in a way nobody else could. Songs like Welcome to the Party, Dior, and For the Night weren't just hits. They were anthems that had the whole city moving. Pop had that voice, bro, that deep growly tone that you couldn't mistake for anyone else. He had the presence, the charisma, the star power. Major artists were already lining up to work with him. Travis Scott, Nicki Minaj, Quavo. Everybody wanted a piece of what Pop Smoke was bringing to the table. He was only getting started, and the industry knew he was going to be massive. His album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, dropped after his death and went straight to #1. It stayed on the charts for weeks. That's the kind of impact he had. People weren't just mourning a rapper. They were mourning what could have been. They were mourning a generational talent that got taken way too soon. So, when his killer gets out and starts moving reckless, starts talking about the murder like it's nothing, you got to understand the level of disrespect that represents. This ain't just about one person. It's about disrespecting an entire city, an entire culture, and millions of fans who still bump Pop's music every single day. So boom, Shorty gets out, and instead of moving in silence, instead of showing any kind of remorse or trying to disappear into obscurity, this man Music decides to go on podcasts and talk about the situation. I'm talking full-blown interviews where he's basically reliving the night he took Pop Smoke's life. And the way he was talking, man, it was respectful as hell. Let me break down some of what he said because this is important. In one interview, the host is asking him about that night, right? Trying to get details about whether it was a planned hit or just a robbery gone wrong. And listen to how casual this dude sounds when he's talking about it. It was a robbery. Nobody sent us there. Nobody did none of that. That's all false information. It's a lot of pages. That's like giving out false information on YouTube. They don't know nothing. Y'all don't know nothing. Y'all just assuming, and y'all just putting together as y'all going. Around.interview. Bro is talking about the murder of one of New York's most beloved artists, like he's explaining what he ate for breakfast.
How would you describe what was going on that night? Maybe even just like take us through the day if you want.
Well, I'm not finna get into detail about too much, but it was a robbery. Nobody did none of that. That's all false information. It's a lot of pages that's like giving out false information. YouTube's like the vlog, false, like they don't know nothing. Y'all don't know nothing y'all talking about. Y'all just assuming, and y'all just putting shit together as y'all going around.
No emotion, no remorse, no hesitation, just cold, matter-of-fact energy. He's not speaking like someone who took a life. He's speaking like a historian correcting footnotes, and that's what makes it so disturbing. Instead of accountability, he's focused on rewriting the narrative. As if perception is the real crime here, it somehow gets even worse. When the interviewer brings up the countless YouTube videos and media coverage surrounding Pop Smoke's death, this kid actually says that people saying rest in peace are being disrespectful. He claims that if someone were talking about his friend like that, he'd see them as an enemy too. Let that sink in. He's calling others disrespectful for discussing the death of Pop Smoke, the very man he helped take out. The lack of self-awareness is unreal. The audacity alone had people shaking their heads. When the interviewer presses him about how the address was found, mentioning theories about a photo being posted online with the address visible in the background, he suddenly claims ignorance. He repeatedly says he doesn't know how the address got out and refuses to speak on it, insisting he won't lie to anyone. But the repetition, the deflection, the constant "I don't know," makes it feel less like honesty and more like carefully avoiding self-incrimination. Then comes one of the wildest moments of the entire interview. He admits he didn't even know who Pop Smoke was. He claims he had only seen one picture of him before and thought he was a model. A model, not one of the hottest rappers in the world at the time. Not the face of Brooklyn Drill, just a guy he thought had a modeling career. That statement alone left people speechless. He goes on to describe waking up after the murder, feeling lost. That's it. That's the remorse. Not regret, not guilt, just confusion. He says he didn't sleep, woke up in the morning, and felt lost. As if losing direction is comparable to taking someone's life. The imbalance between the crime and his emotional response is exactly what infuriated so many people. When the interviewer directly asks whether he was the trigger man, he refuses to answer. Next question. No denial. No clarification. Just silence. And in situations like this, silence speaks louder than words. He knows admitting it on camera would be stupid legally, but he also doesn't deny it. He just moves on like it's an awkward topic he'd rather avoid. As he talks more about the night of the murder, his story starts to contradict itself. He claims nobody intended to get hurt, yet also says there was too much movement going on. Movement from Pop Smoke, movement from everyone in the house. So, which is it? Was it accidental, or did chaos force your hand? The inability to keep the story straight while casually describing a fatal home invasion is what really pushed people over the edge. He even admits he was high that night, saying he was off a Percocet and not fully aware of what was happening. Instead of that sounding like an excuse, it made things worse. He's admitting he chose to go on a robbery while intoxicated, barely aware of his surroundings, and someone ended up dead. That doesn't soften the situation, it makes it more reckless. When asked if he and his crew had done robberies like this before, he again dodges with next question. No denial, just avoidance. The implication is clear. This wasn't their first time. This was a pattern, not a one-off mistake. He does, however, firmly deny the backdoor rumors, insisting nobody inside the house set Pop Smoke up. He speaks dismissively about a woman who suggested otherwise, saying she doesn't know what she's talking about. Even here, he speaks like he's clearing his name, not like someone responsible for a life lost. What really sent people into outrage mode was what came after the interviews. Instead of laying low, this dude started moving on social media like a celebrity, posting, subliminally referencing the situation, moving like he was proud, like being tied to Pop Smoke's death made him famous. The streets noticed. Every post, every interview, every word was being watched and cataloged. Pop Smoke wasn't just a rapper. He was Brooklyn. His music was the soundtrack of the city. Dior had the whole world doing the woo-walk. Welcome to the Party was everywhere. He represented a movement, a moment, and an entire culture. And this kid thought he could speak on Pop's death without consequences. He tried to frame everything as kids being kids. But kids being kids is sneaking out, getting into trouble at school, making dumb mistakes. It is not committing armed home invasions and killing someone. That narrative didn't fly, and the city wasn't buying it. Word eventually spread that he was moving reckless in public, too comfortable, too visible. According to multiple street sources, he got caught lacking badly. Details vary, as they always do. But what remains consistent is that he was beaten severely, not a quick scuffle, a serious violation, the kind meant to send a message. Many people felt conflicted. Violence isn't the answer, but neither is bragging about murder. The legal system treated him as a juvenile and gave him a light sentence. Streets don't operate that way. The streets care about respect, and he violated every rule. The story gets even darker when you look at the wider ripple effects. One of the people arrested early in the Pop Smoke case, Yaquan Murphy, wasn't ultimately charged in Pop's murder but is currently locked up for an unrelated killing. His brother Javant Murphy was later found dead, stuffed naked inside a 55-gallon barrel floating near the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. Authorities ruled it a homicide immediately. Javant was an aspiring rapper himself, a young man with dreams, now dead in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. According to law enforcement and reports, investigators are exploring whether his killing was revenge tied to Pop Smoke's murder. Let that reality sink in. This is what happens when accountability is absent. When people brag instead of reflect, when they confuse attention with immunity. The internet doesn't forget. The streets don't forget. And justice doesn't always come wearing a badge. Pop Smoke's legacy lives on. His music still moves people. His influence still shapes the culture. But his life was taken far too soon by people who didn't understand his value until it was too late. Rest in peace to Pop Smoker, Brooklyn legend. Rest in peace to Javant Murphy, another life lost in the fallout. And to everyone watching, let this be a lesson. Actions echo, words matter, and no matter how long it takes, consequences always show up.